Hi everyone, my name is Ali Yeager. I'm a Senior Lecturer in Health and Physical Education, and I'm recording this video today to talk a little bit about the pedagogical models of teaching in physical education. So I have a health and PE background. I did my Bachelor of Health and Physical Education at Wollongong University and have been teaching PE and health at VU for 5 years now. I was at La Trobe before that. So this is just a really brief overview to sort of get your contextual awareness of what pedagogical models are and what some of the main ones are, so that you can then go off and do further research from here. So you're not going to learn everything in this short video, but we'll certainly get you familiar with some of the terms. Okay, so as you would know, the curriculum part is the what to teach, and basically VCAR tells us that. We have the Victorian curriculum for health and PE that tells you what you need to teach. But the how you teach a bit is really up to individual teachers. And so there's a whole range of different models. Most of them have fun acronyms, and they might guide how you would deliver your PE programming. I recommend that you do the reading that I've put into the module as well, that's on pedagogy from a Caldecott text. That's a really nice overview of pedagogy in physical education. It does give you a brief introduction to the styles of teaching and to model-based practice. And you can then follow up on the models mentioned there that interest you. Today, what I want you to kind of think about as we're going through the different models is whether there are some that might appeal to you and to your teaching style, and maybe follow up on those in more detail. So all of the kind of pedagogical models in PE basically come back to this one pretty classic text. It's Mostyn and Ashworth's Spectrum of Teaching Styles in PE. And it basically, and I wanted to include this text just to show you how old school it is. It was typed on a typewriter. It basically gives you the different sorts of style and how authoritative and how basically how teacher-focused or how student-focused the PE teachers are. Oh yeah, so this is your task for today. Have a think about what's good about each one, which one might work for you. So starting off with the traditional approach, and so this is not a pedagogical model, but this is sort of a comparison point, I guess. Basically, if you think back to what happened when you did PE, it would have been, soccer, hockey, football, netball, one sport after each other, in terms of the program. And in terms of the lesson plan, it would have been you do a warm-up, you do a skill, you do a drill, you do a game. And that's the traditional model of PE curriculum. It's also fairly similar to coaching, really, and that's what happens in a lot of coaching sessions. And I'm pretty critical of this as an approach. It's not very engaging for a lot of people, and often when people are teaching the skill or getting students to practice the drill, they're not actually providing feedback and correction on their skill performance. And so what students end up practicing is not the actual skill. They're practicing doing it incorrectly, which is the problem that I have with this. Games can be motivating for some students, really unmotivating for others. So I think there's a number of problems with this approach. However, it is still the dominant model. If you go out on placement, you'll see this everywhere. Maybe some different resources to look into. If this fits with you and the way you think it should be done, then have a look at some different resources to at least be a little bit more dynamic and to mix it up a bit so that you're not just doing skill drill game in every single lesson. So the Pangrazi stuff is really classic and really great for that. Okay, TPSR, Teaching Personal and Social Responsibility. This model was developed by Hellison, and it's basically just thinking about all of the different values and things that's movement, physical activity, physical education and sport might help people to develop. Things like teamwork and being responsible for yourself, caring for others, all of those sorts of things. So it's a fairly particular model, and if you want to learn more about it, you can, that's some examples there. So if it goes through different levels. From level 1 is respect for those things, level 2 is participation and effort, self-direction, caring and leadership, and sort of moving towards using those outside the classroom. if you want to learn more about it, you can read the original kind of Hellison text, or if you just Google that, you'll find a lot of resources, or look in Pinterest for resources around TPSR, and you could incorporate that into, I think it works particularly well in like a Year 7 and 8 classroom for a unit maybe at the start of the year to try and get everyone to sort of come together as a cohesive group and work together well. More resources on that, there's a couple of different journal articles there that you could look up if you're interested. Just copy and paste the title into Google Scholar and you'll find it. So CPEP, or the Sport Education Model, this is something that few of you might be familiar with, and your teachers might have mentioned it in your specialisation days. Basically, it sort of takes the concept of physical activity beyond the actual performance of the skills to incorporate the whole kind of the whole context within which sport operates. So its purpose is to teach students to become sport literate, and kind of it proposes that the knowledge is gained from learning the rules and the game strategies, and performing different roles. So the main thing here is that everyone does get a different role. So you would compete as a team for a season, and there are roles such as coaches, equipment managers, umpires, and officials, and that sort of thing, which I think is engaging for some people who aren't who don't see themselves as being skilled players. They can take on other roles and still engage in some really high quality learning in physical education. So there's some really good resources on this. The PE Geek has some really good stuff, and you don't need to develop your own stuff. Like, you can get all of this stuff from them in terms of assigning roles, and use their resources if you're going to do this in your own class. So Stephen Top is kind of the sport education kind of guru. He's the guy that kind of made it up, I guess. And this is the text. And this is a more recent journal article by Shane Pill. He's one of the big sort of researchers in PE. And there's some more detail in there in a more academic context. Okay, TGFU, or Game Sense, Teaching Games for Understanding, whatever you want to call it. Those sorts of, there's different terminology. Basically, we're referring to the same thing. So the focus is on really developing thinking through problem solving in your physical education lessons. So emphasising the decision making and the problem solving aspects of a game. So instead of just like, how do we play this? How do we do the skill, demonstrate the skill, get students to practice the skill? It's thinking about, why are we doing this? How can we do it better? So the common approach here is to use minor games where you would set students up. So instead of practicing the skill, you would go straight into a minor game and they would practice the skill within the game. You stop them periodically to ask open-ended questions, to engage them in problem solving and decision making. I think this is a really great approach. It does get a little bit tedious if you're stopping the game all the time, because students kind of just want to get on with it. And I think that this is mostly for students who already have their fundamental motor skills. It's really hard to teach fundamental motor skills at the same time as game sense. They really have to have that solid basic conceptual understanding of fundamental motor skills and be able to perform those skills in order to be able to engage with TGFU. And that's some feedback that's kind of consistent across the PE community in terms of the researchers in this area, is that really fundamental motor skills should come first, and then you can start thinking about TGFU. So I think this is great for year 9 and 10, and embedding within certain units, not every single lesson. So some research resources here. If you search for Teaching Games for Understanding, you get a whole bunch of stuff, and Joey Feith is pretty good on YouTube to just get some, really good demonstrations so that you can see how it would actually work, and sort of go beyond just asking the same questions all the time, because that's going to get a little boring. more resources. These Sport cards are pretty good if you want like a printed resource. So they give you a little bit more detail about different sorts of games you can play. There's a whole bunch of stuff on in Google Scholar, academic articles about TGFU. Paul Webb was one of my teachers, so was Phil, and they have published a lot about this. So if you want to read about it in more academic context, there's certainly plenty there. The movement model, this is something back from the 70s, and it's not one that I hear of very often. This is from the New PE website, and it kind of gives you this nice big wheel, which I really like, in terms of thinking about different sorts of movement. The plan is that you would have a spiral curriculum, so you're continually revisiting different things and different skills through different games. And it's the constructivist model, so the students build new understandings on what they've previously learnt. It's kind of a guided discovery concept, so it promotes critical thinking, enjoyment, long-term retention, and rewards creativity. So again, some open-ended questioning is used, but a little bit more than just the tactical kind of stuff as you would see in TGFU, in that it's more about comprehension, application and analysis as well as the knowledge. So this is similar to like a skill themes kind of model, same but different really. You can have a look at the New PE kind of resources, or this, the movement education book is actually in the library, so that's the call number if you wanted to go and find it at Footscray Park. So there's a number of resources that you can have a look at there. A nice new kind of resource that's not in the library, unfortunately, but if you wanted to start building your professional resources, Teaching Movement Education, Foundations for Active Lifestyles. It's a good one to find. So there's a couple of other models I haven't gone through: fitness education, outdoor education, venture model, and health-related PE. Those are things you could investigate if the keywords sound interesting to you. If you wanted to have a look, this is a really recent article by a couple of the big names, Dawn Penny, Karen Swaby, Shane Peel, looking at investigating what 7 to 10 teachers actually use in terms of PE models, and they found that the traditional model was still pretty well embedded throughout schools. I'm hoping to see a little bit of a shift towards at least a skill or a theme-based curriculum. So we're seeing a lot of things come out about, having a net wall kind of unit or having a target games unit instead of calling it archery or calling it this or that, and that allows for that transference between skills to really be emphasised, and it means that you've got a little bit more variety and keeping things interesting for students. Also means that when you go to do basketball in year 8, then I go, we did this in year 7, because you're focusing on different skills and themes within that instead of just the game itself. So the pedagogical models provide you with a framework through which you can deliver your curriculum. Can be used to maximise engagement through motivation and variety by really varying that throughout your program and having different models. So you might use CPEP to deliver a softball unit, you might then have a net wall kind of unit, and then you might have a minor games unit where you do some TGFU stuff in there. So you'd really mix things up and have variety throughout your program. Some models are more suitable for some classes or situations than others. If you've got really big classroom management issues, you're not going to be going for a CPEP model that allows quite a lot of student independence, for example. And the choice is always going to be influenced by your philosophy to teaching and how much teacher control you really want to have. So thanks for watching my video, and hopefully this has been helpful, and good luck.